Welcome back to episode 1 of the Global Sisterhood. This is part 2 of my conversation about solidarity with Kuwee.
Maybe we can move towards talking about Siinqee and, talk about what happens with Siinqee under repression.
Maybe we could also actually bring in why we started Siinqee in the first place, in the diaspora. Why do we need it? We are in a wonderful country and healthcare is whatever, and, universal healthcare and all of that. Beautiful, country and peaceful. We don't have to look over our shoulders. How does rupture become a rupture, even here? So, let us start with the back home rupture, how Siinqee was ruptured. Siinqee knowledge was ruptured. It's what we said about indigenous people. We think, like Siinqee, the meaning of Siinqee itself, Siinqee, you could also call it Siinqee, Sikko. There's so many varieties of versions of the name itself. Siinqee is what we say, but there are just the plurality of it. I just want to put out there. There is plurality of naming the Siinqee itself. Siinqee is a symbolic stick representing women's governance. Initially, Oromo society had been matriarchal, and the Siinqee represented that rule of women, that egalitarian soft power of women. That's what it represented at the beginning. But then, when patriarchy started, they had to destroy the women's knowledge. The first thing they destroyed was, they have, what do you call it, infantile. Women are like children. They don't know anything. They don't know how to govern. They created this chaos. It's, how you start to weave this discourse that demeans women. Even when they were doing something beautiful, you could twist it around and say, look, the evil they are. Look what they're doing to the environment. The fact that they were protecting the environment, the fact that they were egalitarian gets twisted and caricaturizes the leaders who ruled with Siinqee, who ruled with soft power, who did not do wars, who did not do, who distributed surplus, whatever produce that is obtained equally among their people. It became a caricature. It became a discourse was woven around this, and the women were overthrown. And so Siinqee, at this point, when the users were overthrown and caricaturized and despised and insulted and actually killed, the matriarchs were killed in tragic kind of death when men took over. But then when men took over, they tried to emulate the egalitarian system, especially in the Oromo context. They knew it was good. So they tried to emulate that and created this egalitarian system called Gada. And Gada is democratic. 5 parties actually took turns. There are 5 parties based on age group. The 5 parties took turns to rule. And before all of them get a chance to shine, 8 years in power, none of them is going to take a second chance. Each of them has to take a power for 8 years first. And then after 40 years, the first one can come back to power, meaning the next generation of the first party. It's a very egalitarian, but it is egalitarian for men only. So what they did first was, when they created this egalitarian system of governance, they made sure that women would never be in the governance structures. So they're not in the governance structure. Only men, only boys are groomed for leadership. Boys are groomed for leadership. Every 8 years there is ceremony, a transition from one stage of responsibility to the next stage of responsibility. So they started to create that, but still they would never forget the matriarchy, how beautiful it was. And they gave women, it's a gift, right? It's a hand down, respect. They respected women. That respect resulted in sanctioning the Siinqee. Siinqee, that used to be stick symbolizing the governance of women, symbolizing the rulership of women, is now turned into a solidarity, resistance, as a symbol, Siinqee, the stick that symbolizes resistance, that symbolizes solidarity. So the society sanctioned the women's solidarity, the Siinqee institution. It is a very central institution of Gada. Just get them away from governance. Let them not govern. Let them have their solidarity. Let them have their resistance kind of stuff. That's how I interpreted that absence of women in the governance structures of Gada, but still be respected, their struggles be sanctioned.
I can really see how important it is to get back to that solidarity piece, right? What kind of parallels do you see between the historical and ongoing experiences of Indigenous peoples in Canada and Oromo people in Ethiopia when it comes to colonization and cultural survival?
Yeah, so that's the rupture, the initial rupture. It goes side by side, like parallel with the European colonization, Oromo colonization of Gada. They used to rule themselves by Gada. They used to be independent people, but they had to, they were colonized in the late mid-90s to early 20th centuries. And that is when colonialism was ravaging, European colonialism was ravaging Africa. And it's not just European colonialism, but it's also internal Black on Black colonization. The Europeans European colonialists have a way of inserting themselves in the people, dividing people and arming one and giving military personnel and training and armaments to one and then colonize others. Through them, indirect colonialism, Europeans also colonize. So they go hand in hand is what I'm trying to say. And that kind of bigger rupture, when Gada was colonized, of course, Siinqee is one of the central institutions of that male egalitarian system. It was crushed with it. So what we're trying to do is trying to reclaim that, because it is such a precious nuggets of knowledge that is being repressed and erased. So we're trying to reclaim that. And first is the gender rupture, the initial matriarchal overthrow. And then the Gada also got overthrown by colonialism. Internally, it's settler colonialism. Externally, it's European extractive colonialism. So they both collaborated in breaking the Gada system, the Oromo system. That cycle of violence continued. And not just me, I had to run away from my country, from my homeland, if you wish.
And what was it like to arrive to Canada?
When we got here, that's another rupture. I had no clue that we were, when I was there, the West was capitalist, the East was socialist, and we wanted, to go to socialism because that's egalitarian, whatever, the promise of egalitarian. But when we came to capitalism, maybe it's not bad at all. It is celebrated because we have universal healthcare and universal education, and your rights are it's the myth, right? Your rights are respected. Nobody's going to kill you like they did back home. So we run here. But when we get here, we also come to another form of rupture. Maybe, how knowledge gets created, constructed actively. This is the knowledge we received. Everybody's equal, democracy and equality and all of that. We bought into that. And when we got here, the first time, we wanted to actually reclaim Siinqee was I really need to pay tribute to the women in the diaspora who had actually started researching about Siinqee. And I didn't even know the name Siinqee until I came to the diaspora. I didn't start researching Siinqee. I inherited it from the Oromo women in the diaspora. I am so grateful to them in Europe and North America. They ran away from their own homeland, but they started digging and asking questions and started reclaiming Siinqee. That's where I inherited. And then I dug much deeper. These were activists, but I brought it into the academic research and dug deeper. So when we got here, how we started actually to look for Siinqee, to look for our foremothers, Siinqee, was because women who were really, I don't know how to express this without being demeaning. I don't want to call them illiterates, but these are people who have been displaced from their communities, farming communities, and and just thrown into this global world of refugeehood, and who have been resettled in Canada and around the world too, like in Europe and in North America, in Australia. But what they started finding out was, okay, well, this is universal health care, and this is whatever, and equality, democracy. Life takes shape, and we're not looking over our shoulder. Nobody's killing us. Nobody's persecuting us. We go to the hospital. Women go to the hospital to give birth, and they realize, oh my God, there's discrimination here. There must be discrimination. It's not really all true what they were telling us. The doctors don't have time for us to give birth the way we're used to. A refugee goes to the hospital. Okay, cut them. Take the baby out. C-section. They started seeing this, and nobody did the research. Nobody did the in-depth research about these experiences. But what I'm talking about is the perceived knowledge, the perceived discrimination. They thought, maybe, do they do that for everybody? Or are they just too fast to go to that scissor and cut us and get the baby out? It's their perception. And then we started, oh my God. And most of these women are diagnosed with postpartum depression. Where does that come from? We didn't have that back home. And then we started looking at birth rituals and all of that, and the things that kept that postpartum depression at bay. And we started digging up and doing all the research and doing the birth rituals, brought back birth rituals. I went around from Australia to Europe to North American cities doing that birth rituals. And people were okay with that. So the healing came after, that knowledge, remember? That knowledge they had back home, it got ruptured here. And the situation created a new sense of knowledge. And that sense of knowledge was what we have kind of unearthed by reclaiming our foremothers, our ancestral rituals and traditions of celebrating the mother and the baby that was born. And everybody's kind of using it now. We actually reclaimed that Siinqee culture and put it on our website, and people are using it now. It's their healing process. So, it is power that is involved in this. Whoever is powerful, they erase one knowledge and create a different knowledge. Actively, that active construction of power, knowledge is here, truth. It is not their truth. They had to accept this truth. But see, wherever there is knowledge, there is resistance. We always talk about that, right? And they resisted. Even suspicion itself is the source of refusal, source of, they just said, okay, do they do this for everybody? Or are they just rushing to the knife just for us? That suspicion is the source of the beginning of generating new knowledge. in their resistance, they created this new knowledge. And that was the story of how we started Siinqee. It was, at the beginning, it was just Oromos in the diaspora from wherever they resettled as refugees. We went around and created this knowledge. It's a knowledge that may not have been recognized by the broader world, but recognized and became the source of their healing within the community, within the women in the Oromo community, in the entire diaspora. And it went actually back to the homeland too. The homeland people, where it was crushed, I mean, they started, drawing from our thing, how it circulates. We draw from them across time and space, from the history, from our foremothers, and it gets developed here, and it goes back, circles right back to the homeland. It's amazing. Just like the Jewish people when they were the Exodus, right? They went into the world and they created this knowledge in the diaspora. The word diaspora itself comes from the first exodus of the Jewish people, right? From the area. Whatever they created outside was taken back. Although sometimes it could be, at this point, at least it is maybe destroying the knowledge that was on the land. But that's how knowledge gets created in the diaspora and circles right back into the homeland.
I remember when we talked earlier and you were kind of identified it as glocal knowledge. So it's the local, but also global. So it's that communal knowledge across the world, but it comes from those local communities. And that's just amazing.
Yes, yeah. You got it. Thank you for bringing us to that, because it is glocal. The global and the local, yeah, they're so inseparably intertwined, right? You don't even know the boundary now. Where does the global end and where does the local start? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Kan koo cittee rafuu diddeetti garaan koo yakka laalaa hidda gaara lafta laalaa innamaadha halagaadha na barbaada jette ilmoon kee sanda'ee koo kuluyaa iyyandaa koo nagaa biyya abbaa koo. Now,
kind of moving towards thinking more about the global sisterhood and talking about global solidarity. What does that look like, and what should it avoid becoming?
Global sisterhood is an amazing thing, right? Global sisterhood. It was, at the beginning, it was imperialistic, where feminists started going throughout the world and, claiming global sisterhood, whatever, without actually looking inside and reflecting what they were doing when they go out there. Are they speaking for these people on behalf of them? What are they doing? Global sisterhood wasn't a reaching out of feminists reaching out for one another. It's one group going all over the world and kind of imposing. So it started out as imperialistic because they followed the imperial nation state and they went into the world, on the foot of the armies and the colonizers and everything. It felt like that. So indigenous women started resisting. Not just indigenous women, but indigenous people started resisting this outside imperialistic, colonialistic forces. And because women feminists followed that path and went and claimed global sisterhood in opposition to colonialism, in opposition to imperialism, but actually practicing colonialism, practicing imperialism. So indigenous women started pushing back, saying, okay, look what you are doing to us. It's the same thing that the imperialists, the colonialists are doing to our people. So I think it should stop doing that. That global sisterhood, global solidarity. If it's solidarity must be a reaching out of women for one another. So for Siinqee, what we were trying to develop is that boundary crossing is okay, because Siinqee women are boundary crossers by not by nature, but by the social nature of Siinqee. Why Siinqee is boundary crossing in the first place is because the Siinqee stick was a symbolic stick given to a married woman, and married woman goes into bounded communities. There are communities bounded, communities of let's call them Gosa. Gosa is it doesn't translate as clan or community, but Gosa is much more complex. But they are blood relations. Whether you create that boundary around blood relatives, blood relationships, and create this nation, or whether you create that boundary around ideology and say, we are democratic, we are whatever, and create that boundary around yourself, all of that, women cross it. Women cross these boundaries because women don't have nations. They hold nations together. That is what Siinqee represents. When she takes this stick on the day of her marriage, goes to this strange community, there is, girls before they get married, women and girls, they don't have communities, they don't have nations, they don't have gosa. They hold nations together like a glue. And that traditionally was through marriage. Through marriage, when girls are born in one community, right? In one family, in one gosa, but they don't belong there. They don't belong there because they are halaga. Halaga means strangers. They live like strangers within their own communities. So they are strangers because they're going to be given away to strangers in marriage to hold together this community with that community that marries them. So they hold these communities together by getting married to this community. So they're given away by marriage. So they don't belong here. And when they get there, even with their Siinqee sticks that their mothers give them, when they get to their community of marriage or family of marriage, they are seen as strangers again. That's not their place of belonging either, because they were not born there. They came from elsewhere. They're strangers, they're aliens until they give birth, not just give birth to a daughter, to a baby girl. It's not even birth. It's not even considered birth because she's going to be given away anyway. Who stays there? It's the son that inherits the homestead, defends the boundaries of this community. So what they do is, by getting married to these blood relatives of a community, they have come crossing 5 generations of their mother's lineage, crossing 7 generations of their father's lineage. The girls, when they get married, they have already crossed generational 5 and 7 generations of their ancestors, because they can't marry within the 7 generations, within the 5 generations. So there's boundary crossing right there, built into the Siinqee. Boundary crossing of strangers that don't belong anywhere to this bounded community or that bounded community. They cross all of these boundaries, generational boundaries, community boundaries, family boundaries, and weave them together. Weave all of this together. So what I always say is, women don't have nations. They bring together nations. They hold them together. So that's what is built into Siinqee, actually, crossing boundaries. So when we cross boundaries, in the Siinqee core principles, when we cross boundaries, we don't cross boundaries from above like the feminists of the earlier times tried to do. Don't follow the nation state. Don't follow the colonial state and go out and say we are global sisterhoods. No, we're not. You come on the foot of the colonialists. You come on the foot of the imperialists. We can't be global sisters. What we want global sisterhood to be is sisters there and sisters here reach out for one another in solidarity. So the boundary crossing is the boundary crossing from below in solidarity with one another, and in solidarity with everybody who is oppressed across the nations, across the world.
We talked about this outside of the podcast, but can you touch on your metaphor for social justice? I think it's just beautiful.
I have this metaphor that I always use, the earthworm, the metaphor of the earthworm. The earthworm is a worm. I call it earthworm's eye view. Like that solidarity that goes from below is transformative solidarity, that it comes from the earthworm's eye view, in my view. It's not God's eye view, the all-knowing God. It's not even a bird's eye view from up there. It's still up there. God's eye view is the colonialists. They know everything. The imperialists, they know everything, like God. But the feminist view would have been that bird's eye view. It's focused on gender, focused on whatever, but still from above there, still from up there. We don't want that solidarity from up there. We want to be embedded in the society, in the community, like the earthworm is embedded in the soil, and transforming the soil by burrowing through it and giving the soil, maybe pressing down on it. Maybe that's oppression, but the earth is also protective of the earthworm. The earthworm doesn't have eyes. The earthworm feels its way into the soil and creates these holes to give the air, the soil nurture, the air. And it lives on decay and regenerates. So there's that transformative work happening under the soil. That's the kind of solidarity we want. That's the kind of boundary crossing solidarity that we want. We don't want it to be imposing from up there, or even looking at us from that bird's eye view or the God's eye view, but the earthworm's eye view. That is transformative. That decays and regenerates. Decays and regenerates. The cycle, the natural cycle of decay and regeneration. That's what we want the solidarity to be.
I love that metaphor. That's really nice.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. It kind of made me think of like a children's picture book or something, to have like the character of the earthworm and then show the eagle in the sky and then the heavens from above, and how it kind of identifies as those three different layers of, justice. So I was thinking about how it could be a really cool picture book for kids. Is that something that you would talk about in classes when you're a professor?
No, it's been something that I have developed over the last maybe 2-3 years after retirement. But what I do in my classes is the pointing finger. Solidarity is still two-way. It's a two-way street, because when you go out and stand in solidarity with whether it's women or other oppressed people or the Palestinians that are, the Sudanese, the Democratic Republic of Congo, anybody who is oppressed and repressed, you stand with them. That solidarity, one face of solidarity, that how we reimagine it within the Siinqee Institute. Standing with someone, standing with the oppressed, standing with the marginalized, is just one face of the solidarity. That is standing in solidarity against something, against the state that is repressing them, against somebody who is oppressing them out there. But the other face of it, that doesn't even get constructed as solidarity, is what about that injustice being done out there? What about my own complicity in there? What about, am I not complicit with the state? The state is not just something that is out there. The state is something that is embodied in me. I embody the state. I am, especially in social work, I am the arm of the state, the oppressive arm of the state. In social work, we actually create a space for ourselves, like indulgent. We indulge in this space that we are mediators between the oppressive state and the oppressed, marginalized, oppressed communities and people. Are we really mediators? Are we not complicit with the state? Are we not the arm of the state as well? If it's racism, capitalism, sexism, whatever you call it, gender oppression, whatever oppression is out there in this society, we are socialized into that. Socialization has two simultaneous processes. You are born into the society, or you live in this society. The society socializes you into itself. It socializes you. It makes you its own. And you also grab the society, the social norms and everything, bend it, indigenize it, make it your own. So you internalize it. So the process of internalization and socialization are simultaneous. Even as society makes you its own, you also make the society, through its norms and everything, make it your own. If the society is racist, you are embodying, internalizing that racism. If the society is capitalist, you are embodying capitalist society, class oppression, and all of that. Any form of oppression, if the society is heteropatriarchal, heteronormative, you embody heteronormative norms. It's in you. Whatever is in the state is in you as well. Threefold. Look at that. See, when you point out in solidarity with other people against the state, you also should point, examine those three fingers. In how many ways am I being oppressive? Am I perpetrating that violence? We actually say in social work that it is in the classroom. This is what I do. I press my hand at the edge of a table and show them, oh, look what the table did to me. Look what the table did to me. Look what it did. So when I do that, what happens is, who pressed it? And when you say, oh, that client, so difficult. What are you trying to impose? Are they just resisting, or are they being difficult? Who is difficult in this place? You can only say they are difficult only when you are trying to impose something on them. And when they're resisting, you call them, difficult. You are the one who's difficult in the first place. So when I press my hand and show them like this, like it does this mark on my palm, right? When I press it, did I press it or did it press me? And I'm calling it the violence when I am actually the one who started the violence. Such a simple example, but makes so much sense. Yeah, that's what I used in classrooms, but the pointing finger and the three fingers pointing back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but not the earthworm's eye view is a more recent development for me.
Agadatti balbala wajjini nyaanna jedhe namarelle gannake ganna seedoolu kana birraa gabaabduu kana wajjiniin baana jedhe marmarelle dadhabe.
So maybe we could end talking about the future of solidarity and the future of Siinqee and Oromo culture. So maybe you can touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing. The future is very important for Siinqee and for the Oromo diaspora. When we talk about Siinqee, it's like I said, it's a knowledge. The need for knowledge that is repressed. And we in the Siinqee Institute are trying to unearth out of that repression. We are allowing it a space into which it emerges out of repression. That's what we're trying to do. And we started this as a way of reclaiming that knowledge, and also being conscious of reclaiming that it is not just reaching out into the past and retrieving something that has been neatly tucked away in the past. No, we're reinterpreting it, we're reimagining it and reframing it so that it fits this context, the local entanglement that we are in, the local and the global entanglement. We're trying to make it work for us, meaningful for us in this context, because whatever my grandmother lived back there in her context, it made so much sense there. It doesn't make sense here. I can't live the way my grandmother lived. My mother didn't live the way her grandmother lived. She had to grab it, bend it, indigenize it, and make it her own. Every generation grabs this, bends it, indigenizes it, and makes it their own. What we're trying to do is take that knowledge from there, because it is too precious to just let go. It is so important, that sense of solidarity, not just with human beings, but with the environment, nurturing the environment. That's standing in solidarity with the environment, with the ecology, with the animals, with the plants. That's too precious to let go. This is the survival of the planet. This is the survival of the pluriverse. So we can't let go, but we can't live it the way they lived it. Knowledge is on an ongoing, it's a fluid thing that across time and space and context, it evolves. So what we're trying to do here is the evolution of that Siinqee knowledge that is so important for us. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do here. What I actually first did was in the future, the young people, they are very, very important to us, because they are the ones who continue the tradition. So what I first did was I did research with the young people, youth violence. I did that research, was a participatory action research on youth violence, while the young people were killing and dying and being killed and murdering others and all of that. It was such a huge issue in mid 2000s, and that's when I did this research. And we didn't want to focus on just the violence. What is the healing? We wanted to focus on the healing. Why do young people do this? Is it also considered part of their healing? When they're resisting something, they're causing a lot of damage. So out of that research came the healing part. How do we heal? By reclaiming our old knowledge and offer that healing to the young people. And part of that was our foremothers' songs, and those ancient songs, really, really nice melodies and all of that. And we sang that and offered it to the kids, especially the young women. In my case, we gave it to the young women. They loved it. Oh my God, this is mine, because they don't know. They didn't know before that. Now they know. This is their ancestors' knowledge. They know it, but they don't know what it means. So they say, I love it, whatever. But it's a give back as a participants in the community, right? In the research. So they came back and said, we don't know the meaning. What does it mean? Whatever. So I sat down and translated every song into English, and not just leave it there, but also connect it to the deeper spiritual meanings. They loved it. Oh my God, this is so good. It's so deep. It's so profound, whatever. But then how do we know? Like, we don't know the dances. How do we do the dances? And then 2 years later, I organized women, the Siinqee women, the old Siinqee women who started digging knowledge before I even arrived here. We mobilized that, and those women came, and we did the dance together. We staged it, yes, but it was resource enough for the kids to grab it and make it their own, for their own context. It's an offering for us. We offered it. We didn't impose it. We put it out there because they asked, how do we do the dances? We don't know the meaning. The songs of exile is right there. And the dances of exile is right there. And we named it, dancing the past into the future, singing the past into the future. So we're trying to hold the young people close so they get the richness of their culture. Wherever they go, they think, oh, we don't have a culture to show. We don't have this. We don't have that. Even now when we recruit, I don't like the word recruit, when we invite them to Adoye, they say, isn't this something, backward? Isn't it something, in the old? Why do we need to do it now? The first thing we do is address that backwardness. Where did that backwardness come from? Judge it by its merit, not by its backwardness that somebody imposed on it, not just by savage that somebody called it. Look at it. Okay, don't worry. Reject it if you like, but look at it. Does it have any merit for me today? Does it make sense for me today? And if it doesn't, throw it out. It doesn't matter. It has to be, you have to make it your own in the first place. So that's where we start when we go into this. Isn't it something in the, they're so, that imperialistic, colonialistic thing, how they label these kinds of things, savage and whatever. And even in the Siinqee film that Perry created for this event, the Muslims and the Christians, all these faith groups, especially the fundamentalist ones, they consider this indigenous piece like a heresy or something. It's backward. It's satanic. Like when I took this birth rituals, the birth dances of exile into the various communities. I took it to the various communities across North America, showed them and gathered their feedback. They said, if you could just remove this piece, if you could just remove this, if I remove all of that, it's hollowed. There's nothing left. Why do you want it to be removed? They said, it is, the Muslims said, it's shirky. It's shirky. It means satanic. It's devil worship. And the Christians said, it's amilko, meaning devil worship. And like both major religions within the Oromo community rejected this. They reject that. And there's that persecution continues to this day. And we're fighting against ages and ages of what is termed as civilization. Even Abrahamic religions name us, whether it comes in the form of Islam or Christianity, they're all Abrahamic or Hebrew, whatever. They are Abrahamic religions. They consider this savage. So these are the forces that we are up against. But wherever there is power, there is resistance. We continue to resist.
And through that resistance comes resilience, which this culture definitely has.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much for contributing to this episode, Kuwee.
Thank you for being willing to do this for us. Thank you. With us, not for us. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Global Sisterhood. I would like to thank the Siinqee Institute for their support on this project and An No for her guidance throughout this process. For more information, please visit the Siinqee Institute's website, siinqeeinstitute.org. That is SIINQEE Institute.org. Thank you again for listening. Sugara